Hello, and welcome to Regiments of Renown, Tzeentch Edition. Today we're going to be talking about the Regiments of Renown on the Tzeentch roster, what they bring compared to the regular variant, and when I would consider incorporating them into my armies. As per usual, this information will mostly be geared toward domination mode, but can help you out in land battles or campaign as well. So, let's get right into it. First of all, we've got the Blazing Squealers, the ROR Exalted Pink Horror. Compared to the regular version, they have rank 9 stats, as do all Regiments of Renown. They have the Warp Flame contact effect on their missiles, and they have this ability right here, Conduit of Infinity. 55 meter radius aura. For 13 seconds, it restores ammo in a radius. The full duration of this ability will restore about a third of the unit's maximum ammunition, so it can be pretty nifty to refill ammo on things that don't get a lot of ammo, things like Soul Grinders or Blazing Chariots. In Domination, this ability feels a little strange, since oftentimes what you can do in Domination is just spend all the ammo on a unit, desummon it, and then resummon it again later with full ammunition again, so this ability is a little redundant in Domination, I feel. On top of that, for the price point of 1400 gold for this unit individually, you'd often rather just have 2 pink horrors for the price compared to the missile stats these guys have. The one big upside to them individually is their excellent melee stats. They are quite durable, but generally, if you're just looking for a very high damage up missile unit, you're usually better off with just 2 pink horrors. So these guys don't have a ton of place in the current meta, unfortunately. This ability is cool, and it's probably really good in campaign and possibly land battles, but in Domination, with the way desummoning and reinforcements currently work, replenishing ammo, it's not a lot of purpose to it. Next up, we have the Wyrdspawn, or the Wyrdspawn. I'm not sure how you pronounce this word. Compared to the regular Chaos Spawn, they are boasting of hefty 20% physical resistance, and they cause terror, which makes them, I believe, the cheapest terror source on the roster. These guys are quite strong. Regular Chaos Spawn are already a very strong unit and are very common in Domination games. These guys, with their armor sundering extra health, effective HP from the Phys Resist, and be a constant source of terror is very useful for the Tzeentch's roster. Having that cheap source of terror that can just get in there and grind and is very difficult to remove can be quite problematic against a lot of races, both low leadership races like Greens and Skaven, but also higher leadership races like Dwarves or Kislev, where they have that armor for you to sunder and can be that consistent pressure on your opponent's leadership. So these guys are very strong, and I would often consider taking them in my army, usually as reinforcement. Next, we have a bit of an interesting one, the Severed Claw, the ROR Aspiring Champions. So these guys are a bit unique in that Tzeentch doesn't actually have aspiring champions on the roster outside of these guys. So that already makes them a very unique piece for the roster. What they bring is a hefty amount of anti-large and weapon strength. They have a 30 bonus versus large, which is absolutely exceptional. There are very few things with that much of an anti-large bonus, as well as just acting like a very elite halberd unit with very low models. They also have very high mass for an infantry unit, which makes them a little bit better at tying down those large enemies they want to be fighting. Due to their, recent buffs, they used to be at about a 7,000 HP, now they're up to 9,000. These guys are, especially with an extra 1,000 HP barrier, these guys are actually really resilient and actually quite good at grinding against those large targets, things like big monsters, cav, chariots, any of that. The big problem for these guys is that Tzeentch is already really good at killing those things. With Horror Fire, Blue Fire, Soul Grinders, Flamers, you have a lot of, and not to mention just basic Chaos Warrior Halberds, you have a lot of options for dealing with large things, so these guys are a bit overshadowed. The 1,500 gold price, so they're kind of a big investment into a fairly slow unit, so usually you'd just rather take something faster in the form of a Soul Grinder, or just take a bunch of cheap spears or 2 Chaos Warriors or something else. So they're kind of limited by their price and their ability to only be in one place at one time. Next, we have the ROR Doom Knight, the Knights of Immolation. So these guys' entire gimmick is this ability right here, Searing Torrent. This works very like a Pterodon rock drop, where it's just a bombardment or a gyrocopter bomb. They just drop a bomb on the units below them, and it does quite considerable damage, often being able to one-shot lightly armored infantry units, and doing about half HP to armored infantry units, things like Jade Warriors. The interesting thing with this ability in particular is that it actually has 5 charges with which recharge in combat. So if you're in combat for 60 seconds, you'll get a second charge of the ability. So often what these guys do is they fly over an enemy unit, drop their bombs, and then land in melee to route that off that unit and clean it up and try to recharge their bombs. These guys are actually quite good compared to the regular Doom Knight. Having that really big shock damage and just instant impact can do a very, very good job for routing enemy backlines and just destroying missile units. Because normally, you know, you drop these guys in enemy backline, they can shut down one missile unit. But if you take these guys, they can rock drop on one, and then set on another one, and just kill off two missile units much, much quicker. So they're actually a pretty cost-effective unit for only a 200 gold increase. So if you're thinking about bringing Doom Knights, definitely consider these guys. They're very nice paired with things like Regrowth to keep them alive a lot longer, or even Harmonic Convergence to massively increase their damage output. They're an excellent target for buffs like that. So finally, we have the new one, the Golden Griffin of Theurgy, the ROR Lord of Change. So compared to the regular one, it has Lore of Metal, whereas the basic one has Pink Fire and Blue Fire. This one has Gehenna's Golden Hounds, Searing Doom, as well as an additional 60 armor, which is meant to be representative of a permanently cast Glittering Robes. And then it has the rank 9 stats, which makes it quite a bit better in melee. So this may be a bit of a hot take, but I think this guy is actually just kind of a downgrade from the basic one. The basic, you know, Blue Fire and Pink Fire just are much better spells than this guy gets at the moment. The melee stats are kind of nice, but it doesn't really fit with what Tzeentch wants to do most of the time, I think. Like, you don't really need a big terror-causing monster when you're kind of just shooting things, often playing very like cagey kite style. If you're going for a monster mash, sure, but that's not really Tzeentch's thing most of the time. And then if you like wanted a big flying lord to go and snipe a character, well, Tzeentch already snipes characters very, very fine from range. So I don't think there's a lot of application for this guy at the moment, unfortunately. Perhaps if his spells get buffed someday, or I don't know, if Tzeentch finds a need for that kind of character or unit, maybe, but at the moment, he doesn't serve much of a purpose in my eyes. Neither does the regular Lord of Change, to be fair, but this guy, in my opinion, is even worse. That's all the Regiments of Renown we have for Tzeentch at the moment, so thanks so much for watching. If you found it helpful, please like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz, and I will see you guys next time.